Welcome to another episode of the FWOT Show on the Coil Entertainment Network, the Happy Hour Network, VillageConnectionRadio.com, iTunes, the Google Play Store, and indeed the Internet. I'm Rob Steele, that's Jesus Jones in the background, and this is the show that lets you know that it's not just you. The United States really has just lost its damn mind. You want evidence? How's this? In Los Angeles this past week, a 31-year-old police officer was charged with having sex with a 15-year-old police cadet. That's not the weird part of the story, because everyone immediately jumps on it and goes, ooh, statutory rape, that's a bad thing, and it is. I'm not knocking that. Here's the part that I think is really weird about this story. There's a 15-year-old police cadet? People are kind of glossing over that part. I understand that there are some kids who grow up and immediately know what they want to do with the rest of their life. And I think it's great that this child, because it's a 15-year-old, wants to be a police officer. Spectacular. But do we need a 15-year-old police officer? There's a number of cops we have today that we look at on videos online all the time and think they're not old enough to even, hold a rubber band gun, much less have the taser and the rifle and the body armor because they're beating the crap out of somebody who parked in the wrong place. So a 15-year-old officer, would they generally have the maturity? My guess would be no, they wouldn't. Bad idea. So is, of course, raping the 15-year-old cadet. And really, 15 years old, do we need a hormonally unstable cop? I'm just asking. This is not a knock on women either. Guys at that age, they're a little bit out there too. So, seriously? But there is a saving grace this week. A survey that came out that said that 7% of Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows. It turns out that that's not true, thankfully. Although, with this administration, Miss DeVos, put your hand down. It does not come from a brown cow. Seriously. But while we're talking about education, something else has come up this week about algebra. In higher education levels, like at California State University, they're finalizing a new system-wide math policy to increase their graduation rates. And I almost get that. The problem they're having is with intermediate algebra classes, which is a high school level course. I took it, I had to suffer through it, everyone else should. Anyway, algebra is one of those things where you take it in school and you don't really think too much about what you're going to use it for. Well, at least most students don't. I raised my hand and said, where the hell am I going to use this? And the answer I was given was, in Algebra 2. I said, I'm not taking Algebra 2. Try again. And once I got back from the principal's office, I just shut up for the rest of the class and went along with x plus 2y equals c247 times x to the shut the hell up. It's stuff that most people are never ever going to use again. So a lot of people have decided to get together and see if we can phase out algebra as one of those requirements because it's never going to be used. I think that's a good thing. Even Elon Musk came out this week and said that, maybe it's that we're teaching it wrong. We should be teaching it not as here's all these formulas and here's how they work. Teach it as here's a problem and here's how to solve it using math. That might work, but that would require educating our teachers, which would require money, which is something the administration's not willing to do. And you know what? That's fine. But there's one professor at California State University who says that the problem is not with the way they teach it. It's not with the subject itself. The problem is that algebra is discriminatory against black kids. And I don't know what to say about that. Algebra is discriminatory against... Look, just because you never used it again doesn't mean it's a black thing. I'm with you entirely on the it doesn't need to be required. We can teach other more useful things like how to file your taxes, because that's not taught anymore. But algebra is not a civil rights issue. You're going to have to do an awful lot of proving to get me on your side with this. Normally, I am up there with you on every civil rights issue, but algebra is just not one of them. It's been a while since I've done a Stormtrooper report, but there's so many Stormtrooper things going on right now. You know what? Let's go ahead and do them. First off, Sean Spicer abandoned the Stormtrooper trip because even Sean looked around and went, the Titanic looked a lot more stable than this. Perhaps I should leave. Of course, that's what Donnie has been doing the whole time. I mean, this past Thursday, he said, we should all stay in town until we have a new health bill that we can pass. And then got in a plane and went and played golf. Good job, Don boy. But he's not the only one traveling around. Last week, I even brought up, that's right, I brought up John McCain and how he's could be considered an even bigger American hero for all the things he's going through with cancer right now and how brave he's being about it. And this week, he almost did a good thing. Got right up to the end, and that's when he f***ed it up. He went from a cancer treatment procedure, got on a plane, went to D.C. because you need to vote on the health care bill, and he went there and voted for repealing Obamacare. That is very similar to seeing a fireman at a firehouse and the alarm goes off and he gets in the fire truck and he drives to the house which is on fire and all of the people have been evacuated from the house, and as he pulls up to the house he gets out the hose, and then as he begins to turn the hose onto the house he says, no, I'm not going to do it. Picks up the kids and throws them back in the house. That's what John McCain did this week. So for all the people who say John McCain is a great American hero, you know what, John? You just lost your American hero status. You're not a hero anymore. You're a d***. No other way of phrasing it, and over it you must get. But he's not the only one in the Congress and the Senate and the House and everything that came up with really stupid ideas this week. The House and the Senate reached a deal this past Saturday to slap Russia with fresh sanctions. Really? We're going to what? Blockade some Russian stuff? Oh no, we'll have to get our vodka from, what, France? Really? I know we're not importing cars. I saw that Russian superhero movie. It wasn't that good. We're going to impose sanctions on Russia? Why don't we impose sanctions on Congress and all of these bastards who colluded to put Donald Trump in office? Seriously. I mean, this past week, President Obama's intel chief said Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russian officials is only the tip of the iceberg. Unfortunately, I think it's that New York-sized iceberg that broke off from Antarctica a few months ago. And they're having trouble making charges stick. How are you having trouble? Seriously, tell me why these people aren't in jail awaiting all the evidence that comes up. Because that's what happens to normal people. But of course, these aren't normal people. These are people like Donald J. Trump, whose first 6 months in office included 991 tweets, 836 absolutely verified lies, and 0 legislative accomplishments. None at all, whatsoever. He has, however, damaged the psyche of 40,000 Boy Scouts in a speech that he gave them. First off, who decided that Donald Trump should be speaking to the Boy Scouts? I don't get that. But a lot of people decided that he said some really horrible things in his speech. And the first thing he said that was horrible was, who the hell wants to speak about politics when I'm in front of the Boy Scouts? He said the word hell. Oh no, that was, really? That's the part you're having trouble with? He brought religion into it. That's what it was. He brought religion in. And Michelle Bachmann is saying that, hey, Donald Trump is increasing the awareness of God in the United States. And I'll give him that. He is. Millions of people are now saying that the invisible and or imaginary man that lives in the clouds could do a much better job than Trump. But really, hell was the worst thing he said to the Boy Scouts. I can guarantee you the Boy Scouts have not only heard worse, they've all said worse. Seriously, think about it. Think about it. But that's not the worst thing he said. It's not. The worst thing he did this week actually came later, where he decided to ban transgender U.S. military personnel. He's going to just kick out anyone who is transgendered in the U.S. military, and he announced this over Twitter. Not a big announcement, no, Twitter, because he's Donald J. Trump, and he owns a mansion and a yacht, or Elmer J. Fudd, either one, doesn't matter. They're almost interchangeable at this point, although I would rather have Elmer Fudd as our president. The reason he said we can't have transgendered people in our military is because we would spend entirely too much money on all their transgendered drugs, to which news sources across the planet announced, and this depends on which news source you go with because the numbers do vary, but I think they all have the exact same point that makes the exact same sense. The U.S. military spends somewhere between 5 and 10 times as much on Viagra as it would on any transgendered medication. Seriously. So you know what we need to get out of our military? Apparently, men. Let's see what Donnie thinks about that one. In tech news this week, we've got a couple of unusual news stories. First off, Adobe announced, finally, that they will be killing Flash in the year 2020. Now, this is not the TV character, not the comic book character, not the one of the movies either. Flash has been there alongside basically everything for the past, 20 years? Every computer item, your phone, it uses Flash to do a lot of animation stuff. Your computer, same thing. But it has become a security issue, and so they're finally going to kill it off, which is something they said that they were going to do. Well, how's this? Steve Jobs said he was going to do it, but then he died. So maybe that idea died with him, and now it's been resurrected. It's a second coming of the killing of Flash, which sounds like it should be in one of the comic books. But there's other good news. Ransomware, which has become a big issue of late with the WannaCry and Petya attacks, which have just hijacked computers all over the world. Now, there is a website brought to us by the No More Ransom Initiative that undoes ransomware attacks. NoMoreRansom.org has created a website that undoes any ransomware attack. That is awesome news, and if your computer gets hit by it, it's free. So go check this out. Now, if you've listened to the show before, you know that every so often there ends up being a new segment, and usually the new segments don't last long, like a show or two, before they just kind of fade into obscurity. And this week we've got another one, because I'm fairly certain there is no possible way that I'm going to be able to drag Mustache News for more than this episode. But there were two big mustache stories this week. Very strange. Salvador Dali, the surrealistic artist, was exhumed this week so they could perform a DNA test to find out if a woman actually is his illegitimate daughter. It could happen, it might not happen. The big deal out of this was they exhumed him, they opened the coffin, and found that his mustache, which was kind of famous and always looked kind of weird, was still in place, exactly the way it was when they buried him. Mind you, I'm not exactly sure what they were expecting. It's not like the mustache was going to get up and run out of the coffin going, "Dude, I've been in there for years. Why did you not get me before now?" Yeah, it's a mustache. But, yeah. Guess what kind of a slow news week we've been having? Just saying. The other news of mustaches this week came from the world of entertainment, where two movies have conflicted over the same actor. In one, he has a large, bushy mustache, and the Mission Impossible movie may call for Henry Cavill to keep that mustache, but that's right, it's Henry Cavill, and they're doing reshoots of the Justice League movie, and Superman's never had a mustache before, and he's not going to have one now. So he's going to have to shave And I suspect there will be a fake mustache inserted later. I told you, it's a slow news week. But if you think there's something I missed, or if you have any comments about the rest of the show, contact me through, let's say, email, rob@thefwotshow.com, or you can go ahead and go to the website, thefwotshow.com, and click the buttons for Facebook or Twitter, both of them. Come to me, and I will answer anything you ask, or comment back on comments you may send to me, because that's what I do. While you're on the website, go ahead and subscribe to the show through iTunes or the Google Play Store or wherever else you happen to find the podcast. And go to the Coil Entertainment Network shop, sometimes called the FWOT shop. I haven't figured out which I'm going to go with yet. Either way, get a t-shirt or a hat or a coffee mug. All of it goes to support the Coil Entertainment Network shows like the FWOT Show or the Two Pages Project or Cinema Savant or even The Witching Hour, which is actually the only show I'm not on, but that's beside the point. Go help us out, support the shows, because they're free, they're fun, and you know you enjoy them, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have stuck through the show this long. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with a couple of little things that I found. The stupidity thing of the week has to be Shark Week. It's Shark Week related anyway. There was a race between Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps and a great white shark, and I don't really know why. It seems like a stupid idea. Michael Phelps swimming as fast as he can against a great white shark that, frankly, looked a bit lackadaisical. No, I didn't watch it live. I watched the replay because it was shorter and I didn't care enough. Michael Phelps lost. There's a shock. The human can't swim as fast as a shark. Who knew? Stupid headline of the week, and I apologize for the tackiness of this, but CNN put up a headline on their website that said, Linkin Park cancels tour after singer's death. No. Really? Chester Bennington committed suicide and they cancel their tour? Wow. There's some crack reporting going on there. Reporters on crack. Maybe that's more accurate. But it kind of goes along with the quote of the week, which is just a little bit out there too. Variation on a theme. The quote of the week, as far as I'm concerned, is, give a man a gun and he can rob a bank, but give a man a bank and he can rob the world. Think about it. It makes sense. In the meantime, have a good rest of the week and be safe, everyone, because it's getting really, really weird out there.